Hey everyone. This is a discussion that I get asked about a lot, typically from my patrons, aspiring herbal products business owners, etc. And it's also a discussion that I just see happening a lot online. And I was planning on only recording this video for Patreon, but I think I'm going to share it here as well. So this discussion is on why you see different prices for herbal products. Sorry, I just saw a phone call coming in. Different pricing for herbal products on, this person's website versus this person's website versus Whole Foods versus your local boutique, etc. And also on copying versus multiple people making the same traditional recipe. So the questions that I get asked specifically are, how do you price a product, and how do you avoid copying in an area where there's a lot of traditional recipes and people's inspiration is stemming from the same source? So that's what I'm going to go into today. Please feel free to share your opinion. I'm happy to have a discussion about this, regardless of if your view is similar to mine or totally opposite. So for starters, I'm just going to kind of tell my story on pricing. So I started my business a little bit over 4 years ago now, as far as selling products. And when I first started selling products back then, my prices were extremely low. I think I was selling 1 ounce tinctures for $8 and 2 ounce for $14 at one point. I was selling my salves for like $6 for 1 ounce, $12 for 2 ounce, like really low. And that's fine. I should have been, because I was still learning. I was handwriting my labels back then on like sticker paper. I didn't have an office. I didn't have a CPA. I didn't have any of the things I do now. So from that first year to the second year to the third year to the fourth year, my products have slowly continued increasing in prices. And the reason for that is not because I've got a business coach that's like, you need to raise your prices, you're worth more than that. And it's also not because I'm looking around at my peers and what their prices are. Not that that's a bad thing. That's actually a practice that a lot of people recommend to make sure that you're not like selling way above market price or way below. However, I felt like my prices were very in line with my level of herbalism all those years and my level of business owning. So, year 2, I got a printer. I started buying, different labels that were colored. I started working with graphic design artists for the first time. And I was making all my own labels and printing them, which, is a step up from handwriting them. I also started, getting my containers from a wholesaler instead of like Amazon or something, or like I have an Amish market nearby where you can buy small amounts of bottles and jars at a time. I started depending on my income solely. I left my jobs. I was working a part-time job for the first year. Then moving into the third year, I got a CPA to help me with taxes. I got super legal as far as all my licensing, etc. I had continued my education. I finished my certification to become a clinical herbalist. A lot more things happened. And so that was reflected in my price raise. The next level that I went through, like 2019 to 2020, I realized, okay, it is no longer sustainable for me to be growing all the herbs that I'm using and foraging all the herbs that I'm using, because I'm now selling twice as many products as I once was. So at this point, the most ethical choice for me to make for both plants, which as an herbalist I love, my environment, and people and my local economy, is to switch to supporting local farmers, supporting farmers willing to ship fresh herbs, just making these relationships with farmers willing to grow the herbs that you're using. That was a huge financial increase for me, as well as hiring on a graphic designer that I'm working with full time that's designing all of my labels, which we've got a lot of products, so that was a lot of labels. working with a web developer on a nicer, cleaner website. I started hiring. I have a financial advisor and a full-time CPA now. I've got, I'm following, GMP regulations. I'm doing all the things. In October, Megan and I upgraded to having this office space, which is really nice, hiring employees for the first time. And so now at this point, the amount of money that it costs me to just have my business in existence per month is actually like almost double what it costs me just to live as a human. My business requires a lot more money than my personal lifestyle does. And so with that, I had to raise my prices to match the new branding, the new labels, etc. Not much. I still feel like we are on the more affordable spectrum. However, when you are looking at my products and you're looking at a product on Etsy that's maybe got the handmade labels, someone making from home, etc., that is why the prices are different, and they should be. Sometimes when I see people selling things for the same price as me who are working from home and making their own labels, I'm like, dang, go you. But a lot of times that's not the case. I see people selling them for much less. And I've heard of some herbalists who see that and they're like, they shouldn't be selling them for that cheap because it makes us look bad, or like people are going to want to buy theirs instead. That's good to me because that's a demographic situation right there. If you don't need one of my specific products, let's say you're buying a more general product that I make, like my fire cider, my take on fire cider, or my take on elderberry syrup, or my take on cough syrup. You probably could find one on Etsy with similar ingredients for half the price. And you should buy that if you want to. I know that a lot of people choose to support me specifically because they've been following along for a while. They see what's going into the price changes. They appreciate the way they look in their home. They appreciate kind of different things. Like, when I first started making herbal products, I wasn't using natural preservatives and stabilizers. So you have to handle and store your products a little bit different too. If you're willing to do that, that is fine. But these are the differences in the products. And I am not saying one is better than the other. In fact, a lot of times people will come to me for a product that I offer that I'm sold out of, especially with my shop only being open such a limited amount of time. And I will often say, you can probably find a drawing salve on Etsy right now for $6. Whereas our version of a black drawing salve, is not in stock all the time. And even though ours is a little bit different than other people's recipes, you're still going to get the same actions that you're after from someone else's versus mine. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the next question that I get a lot, which is, how do you avoid copying in a, in a area of interest that a lot of people are either making the same or similar traditional recipes, like I just mentioned with the black drawing salve and the fire cider, or people are drawing inspiration from the same well. So here's my thoughts on that. If you are an herbalist entering a community, whether that's in person or online, take a look at what your community is already offering. If there are people in your community that are already offering certain items, it's probably better that you try to complement those and offer different items. Now, maybe these are items that you're really passionate about and you love. That's fine. Just be sure that you are really giving it your own flavor. For example, there's the classic fire cider recipe that anyone can find online and make. Super simple. A lot of our ancestors, grandmothers made it. make it different. Put your own spin on it. Make yourself and your family some fire cider first. What do you like about the taste? What do you like about the actions? And which parts of those things that you enjoy can you really take to the next level? For example, ours has elecampane root in it, which is really good for that expectorant properties that fire cider naturally has. Francesco loves to cook with our fire cider, so we really focus on a good balanced sweet and salty flavor. And ours is a little bit different than most people's. Same with our elderberry syrup. The way that we juice our elderberries and don't add water is very different from someone using dehydrated European elderberries and adding a gallon of water to it, you know? So you just want to give it your own flavor. So that's my first advice. You know, try to offer different things than what your community is already offering. And if there's a recipe or two that you really want to make anyways, just don't make it the same way that someone who is already established in your community is making it. I just think that that's like a silent, unspoken level of respect. Naming things. This can be really difficult because there's a lot of fun names that we want to use that just kind of make sense for items, and this can get a little bit tricky. So my advice here is, you know, just don't ever use the exact same name if it's the same item. Let's say, what's a good example here? Okay, I've got a seasonal tincture called Strawberry Moon. That's a pretty general name. Whereas, you know, herbal sipping broth is a really not general name because that's what it is. It's a broth that you sip on. So let's say I've got this tincture that I make seasonally called Strawberry Moon. Well, let's say you want to make an oxymel or an electuary that you also made under the Strawberry Moon in June, but you're using completely different ingredients and it's a completely different remedy. Well, if I were to see that, I'm not going to be butthurt that you chose the same name. I don't own the name of that moon. However, if you decided to make a tincture with some of the same ingredients with the general same actions and called it that, it's a little close for comfort. And this is also where trademarking comes in. I'm trademarked. I know a lot of other people who are at my level of offerings that are also trademarked. I don't trademark specific names. However, under trademark laws, if you are to release a product that's similar to mine, let's say I make my cooling pine tallow salve. Let's say you started making a similar salve with similar ingredients and calling it cooling pine tallow salve. Well, that's going to interfere with trademark laws because someone might be Googling trying to find my cooling pine tallow balm. Yours might pop up with a similar look, similar ingredient, same name, and they might accidentally buy yours and think it's mine. And this is something that happens when we see people write like negative reviews to a company, or they're like, I've been using this elderberry syrup for years and this time it tasted different. Come to find out, that's not actually the website that they bought it from. This happened to me once with my plant walks or my classes I used to host before pre-pandemic. Someone messaged me and was like, I paid for one of your classes and I never got it. Well, I knew that wasn't me because I was only doing in-person classes or Patreon. I wasn't offering online classes that I had to send you. So I was immediately like, I think you've got the wrong person. They were like, nope, it was on your website, Cedar Hill Homestead. And I was like, I'm sorry, that's not possible. Can you like maybe look in your email? They looked in their email and it was a business with almost my exact same name also offering herbal classes. So this is where trademarking comes in that is healthy. It's not negative trademarking like the whole fire cider situation where this company decided to trademark a traditional recipe and then go after people who were also making that recipe. No. This is a healthy level of trademarking where you are trying to safely differentiate yourself so that people aren't making these mistakes and potentially harming themselves. You know, if they've been buying your remedy forever and then someone else makes it but they have an ingredient in it that you're allergic to. So these are just some things that you have to really think about. How how am I going to start this? So there's two arguments I see often about copying that drive me absolutely nuts. And I feel like, again, I'm going to have to kind of give an example here. So I have an herbalist friend in another part of the country who lives in a very small town. She's lived there for a long time. She's established herself in her herbal business there. She was the only herbalist there for a long time. Someone recently moved to that area, reached out to her, you know, kind of asked her general questions like, how did you do it? Like, how did you get this small town to appreciate what you're doing? And, you know, she was like, time, hard work. And this person started slowly offering the same products, calling them similar names, going to the same markets, marketing themselves to the same audiences. And my friend's feelings were hurt because something that she had worked really, really hard to establish for herself, someone was just kind of coming in and feeding off of it. Because of the groundwork that she had done in this small town, getting people familiar with the herbs that she's using and the remedies that she's offering, now this person can come in and benefit from it. If this person had come in and differentiated themselves and offered herbal products, herbal services, but just maybe not the same, or tried to do any sort of differentiating, that would have been perfectly fine and respectful. And unfortunately, this was direct copying, and I just need you to trust me when I say that. And the crazy thing is, when my friend very gently approached them to say, hey, I'm starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable, very kindly, this person reacted instead of responding. They got very upset, very defensive, and they started sharing information on their platform about, like, women should be supporting other women and uplifting other women, and herbal remedies belong to everyone, and, you know, all the things that are true. I share information just like this, community over competition. However, the people seeing her post this are like, who's threatening you? You know, what's going on? This isn't right, da-da-da-da-da. Little do they know, she is using that argument to support bad practices. So, yes, herbs are for everyone. Yes, community over competition. Yes, women should be supporting women. But what does that look like as a two-way street? That would look like this person coming into this community that this woman has already really established and saying, thank you so much for the work that you've done here. I'm so excited to connect with this community. Is there anything you're not offering that I can offer? I would love to do markets, the same market that you're doing, because it looks really fun. Maybe I could offer this instead. Maybe we could share a booth and complement each other. You know, those are the ways that you do that. Coming in and offering the exact products, almost identical names, almost identical labels, descriptions, etc. That's not right. And so it sucks to see that argument that's very true being used to support those bad practices. And what is the other one that I see that drives me nuts? Okay, so I can't remember what the other thing that I wanted to talk about was, but that's okay because I'm already at the 20-minute mark. So if you've made it this far, thank you. Please feel free to let me know how you feel about this topic. And thanks for listening.